Hiya, only me. So I'm going to be talking about tombs and things today, to do with the extraterrestrials and very much the ancient types of things. So I'm going to get straight into it as usual. So there are burial sites that date back thousands and thousands of years ago across the world, most of which were made for the leaders and what was believed to be their gods. So if we think of Tutankhamun, for example. Now, these are huge constructions that would require a lot of knowledge and strength to build, and according to ancient texts as well as tradition, knowledge to build these were given to our ancestors by their gods. This is in writing. Now, this is very possible, but what were their gods? Were they gods as we know them to be, or were they extraterrestrials? Now, some might think that's very far fetched. Oh, yeah, here we go. But actually, it's really not. So, many have lots of connections to astronomy and spiritual energies. Now, were they portals that could reunite with celestial beings that were once walking the earth with humans? Where has the belief come from that there is life after death or an existence in another world, and that by creating these burial sites creates a gateway to them? So, for example, ancient Egyptians believed what many of us are taught to only be tombs. They actually believed that they were gateways to afterworlds, and there are many beliefs like this from around the world, and that this life is merely just an opportunity to prepare for the next life. So Egypt holds the most ancient texts in the world. It's believed that this particular text, is the oldest. It dates back to 2400 BC, and it contains descriptions and instructions from Sirius, the god of afterlife, on how to prepare the dead for the descent to the heavens. It explains how the king would become a star and ascend to the sky and join the others. So ancient theorists believe not only did it describe them descending up into the sky, but it contained instructions on how to travel to other worlds. So it's believed by some that about 25,000 years ago, gods, or what we have been taught were gods, but to others may have been extraterrestrials, appear to be gods, were living on Earth amongst humans. They then disappeared, and the ancient Egyptians believe it was a way to reach them. So once they died, they followed the instructions, and then they'd be able to rejoin them in the skies. Now, in 1850, an archaeologist discovered a massive bunker about 1.5 miles away from where these ancient texts were found. Now, if you look at the pictures, you realise just how advanced they were for their time. It is absolutely amazing and unsurprisingly described as very strange and very mysterious when you visit there. Almost unexplainable, and to be honest, some have actually said that it's like being in another world, and I can really understand that. If you look at the pictures, it's absolutely amazing. Now, it contains these enormous sarcophagus. Now, they're made from granite, and they had to have been transported over 600 miles away, as these stones were not local to this location. They were pure solid granite and weighed 70 pounds. The precision of how they were cut is absolutely incredible, and there are so many of them and they are unbelievably precise. It really makes me want to say that it had to have been done by a machine. It absolutely had to have been done by a machine. It's just impossible to have been done by humans at that particular time. The lids sit perfectly on top of the stone, which would have been cut to hold a dead body. So these stones would have been carved so that there would be holes within these stones, and the lid would have sat down on them and they closed perfectly. Now, the angle of how these so-called tombs or sarcophagus were placed would have been impossible for humans to hold and manoeuvre in such a way, and even archaeologists can't work out how they did it. Now, there is a theory that the Apis bull was a descendant from the sky. Now, they believe that they were ceremonies for the bulls, but now it's being questioned that were they actually maybe feared, because they could have been created by the gods of the sky. Maybe they were there to sort of help with the lifting, but they were actually very, very scary things. They were huge bulls and probably had incredible power, so maybe the sarcophagus were created for them. Because as we all know, ancient Egyptians mummified everyone and everything that they worshipped. So although it was believed that these were worshipped, if they really were, why were there no mummified bodies of them? So inside of these sarcophagus, there were crushed up bones, no mummified creatures. So maybe the reason for these sarcophagus were so they would never be able to escape. So they crushed the bones up to really make sure that these bulls could never escape. But there's another interesting thing here. There were also a lot of these sarcophagus empty. So either the extraterrestrials came and removed the bulls, or maybe there was not that many of them. Who knows? But some believe that the sarcophagus could have actually been a teleportation system. It transported humans to other planets and brought extraterrestrials to Earth. Or maybe that was at least the plan, but it never happened. Is that too far-fetched? Who knows? I don't know. Now, in Peru in 1987, an archaeologist uncovered the lost tomb of Lord Saipan. It was completely untouched and considered to be the richest in the world. Archaeologists actually call it King Tut's tomb of South America. Some of the objects were considered unusual, but there are every other day things like ceramic pots, gold, silver utensils, ornaments, some believed to protect him in the afterlife, just like Egyptians did. Now, there are also several wives and consorts buried with him that were sacrificed to accompany him to the other world. Among the treasures, there are strange statue type things and figurines that people tend to think resemble beings from other worlds. So maybe some describe them as being bug-eyed people, and there were others that were actually therianthropic. Now, he had a face mask made of gold, and he was dressed in copper shielding, resembling a divine being. In fact, he was believed to be half god and half human. Now, this is thousands and thousands of miles away from Egypt, but the similarities were quite uncanny with their rituals, beliefs, and preparation. Now, in Ireland, there is a 5,000-year-old tomb about 37 metres in diameter and is believed to be a temple or a place of worship that connected the earth and sky. The hieroglyphs that are carved inside here appear to be the work of non-humans because they are so incredibly accurate, and it contains astronomical charts that no human of that time would have the knowledge or understanding of it. This one contains an unbelievably accurate means of measuring the solar year, and it is in line with the winter solstice. Now, the sun illuminates the inner chamber in a way that would have required a vast amount of knowledge, far more than what humans would have had back then. Now, there are symbols still unexplained to this day, but things that could represent things like flying saucers and vortexes. If you look at the pictures, you can understand why. Now, it's believed that there's probably gatherings during winter solstice where priests and priestesses would go inside every year, and it is possibly a rebirth. Now, many stories and legends tell us that we were helped with things from the sky, usually described as gods, and that we were taught by the gods, and I quote, shining ones descending from the sky. So is it really hard to believe that these gods, rather than sweeping down on horses and clouds, really could have been coming down on spaceships? It wouldn't have been in their capacity to understand it. Now, it's also worth mentioning that in many of these places there is often high levels of mercury found. Now, mercury itself isn't that useful unless being used in high-tech stuff. So to me that seems quite a coincidence that it's found within these places. Now, if this hasn't got you thinking, I don't know what will. Thanks for watching. Bye.